Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on Discover the Education that Advances Your Fitness Career. I am Dr. Erin Nitschke. I'm the Dean of Workforce Innovation and Curriculum at Lionel University, and I am here with my awesome co-host, John Bauer.
Thank you, Erin. And yeah, my name is John Bauer, a longtime professional in the fitness industry. And here at Lionel, I help to put together the education experiences. So putting together education content like the courses that people take, and also doing webinars like this. And if you're here or if you're listening to the recording, I'm assuming that you're wanting to learn a little bit about education. And Erin and I are a couple of people that have not just dipped our toes in the world of fitness education. We've gone all the way in. You'll notice Dr. is right before it says Erin Nitschke. So she's definitely gone the way of higher education. And I've taken about 1 million certifications, some that were great, some that didn't serve me as much. And that's kind of what we want to talk about is there's so much out there that I think a little clarity can go a long way in terms of making education decisions for yourself. So I'm going to pose a question for us and for anyone who's watching. Where are you right now in your fitness career and where are you trying to go? And I think that's a good question to ponder. And what we're going to talk about today is once you know where you are and where you want to go, that helps you to decide what gaps you might have. And in this case, I'm talking about education gaps. Oftentimes, there's skills and knowledge and abilities that we can add that can help us to get big steps closer to whatever goals we might have in our career. So I think it makes sense for us to start with kind of the entry point into the industry for a lot of us, and that's with certifications. For a lot of people who are looking to get into the fitness industry, they're doing some search online and they start to come across a lot of certifications that can get you in as a personal trainer, group X instructor, nutrition coach, et cetera, et cetera. So let's start there, Erin, and let's talk about what certifications are and some of the advantages that they may have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, certifications, like you said, great jumping off points. They certainly do reflect a specific area of expertise or knowledge. And we're fortunate in the industry to have no shortage of various opportunities that people can explore everything from youth fitness to corrective exercise to your basic certified personal trainer to group X to all sorts of different specialty areas and niche markets as well. And so it is a great way to basically put your knowledge out there. You pursue a certification and you achieve this level of competency that says you are able to do X, Y, and Z, and this is your scope of practice. And it opens the doors for all sorts of different job opportunities. And I think what you said about having a roadmap is really important because that gives you an idea of what to pursue. Because there are so many certifications out there, it can be really daunting, I think, for an individual to navigate and see all of these different things. Like you said in the beginning, you've taken millions of different certifications, some helpful, some not so helpful. And having a very clear idea of where you're at now and what the end goal is and where you want to go can help you narrow down the different certifications that you might want to pursue that truly would be impactful to your career and not just to take it for the sake of taking it because there's an investment to it, right? You have to pay for this journey. And so it isn't something that you want to just kind of shop around and grab a bunch of different things and take them all together just for the sake of taking them and to have those initials behind your name. But it's a great place to begin.
Yeah, definitely a great place to begin. I think, like you said, there's an investment in time, energy, and money into it. And if you're like me, I value all of those things. Certifications, they oftentimes, the best ones anyway, are pretty practical and focus on the job ready skills. So like program design, a little bit of language sometimes, because you need to be familiar with the language of maybe exercise science or nutrition, exercise technique, safety. But then you can go down to specific skills. I've taken certifications in just kettlebells, right? So you're doing kettlebells for 2 or 3 days, very specific. But again, that's a very specific area that maybe you want to learn about and create a separation for yourself in terms of you versus the other professionals out there that might be trying to get some of the same clientele. I think in terms of where certifications rank in terms of the hierarchy of what you might want to do with your education, I think they're a way to dip your toes into the education. That's why I have so many of them because they're not quite the same investment as getting a PhD or a master's degree. So I've been able to diversify my skills and my education. But the thing they really did for me is give me a big variety in terms of my exposure to the many different things available to us in the fitness industry. So again, when we're talking about certifications, lower barrier to entry, but they can get you started. They can give you some practical skills. And in some cases, you can get certified and start working right away, which I think is what a lot of people are trying to do because they're excited about joining this industry. They're excited about getting some clients and helping some people. A couple of practical notes on certifications is they do provide some credibility and they show employers that you're hireable. That's probably one of the bigger points about getting a certification. So when we talk about something like a certified personal trainer certificate, like we have here at Lionel, that's something that can show that you are educated, you are qualified, you're hireable, and you're ready to go. Question for you, Erin. Do you have any favorite certifications that you've taken that really helped you in your career?
I do. That's a great question. So I started out as a certified personal trainer, and I did that in my last year of graduate school with my master's. And as I started practicing and as I got out there, I wanted to learn more about the coaching side of things because at least when I was going through many moons ago my certification, there wasn't this thing called health coaching. There wasn't this thing about coaching language and guiding and motivational interviewing and those things. Those terms just didn't really exist inside of our space. And so later on, I pursued a health coaching certification, which I felt really helped upskill my abilities as a certified personal trainer because I could then engage in deeper conversations with my clients. I knew the right questions to ask. I knew the better questions to ask in order to really coach someone towards success versus being in that box of here's your workout program and this is what we're going to do today. Do 8 reps of this and those types of things. It really helped me coach that person in a holistic way that I felt I didn't necessarily have right out of the gate. So that was one of my favorite ones that I took. And then also, I think pursuing a more specific specialty cert in nutrition was also really valuable. As I got out into the industry and was practicing, I found that individuals struggle with that scope of practice, right? The scope of practice when it comes to nutrition and working as a personal trainer. And there are certain things you can do and certain things you cannot do. And I didn't have a lot of confidence around what can I do? And is this okay to say? And is this not okay to say? And of course, I was very young at the time and I know differently now, but I did choose to pursue a specialty search to just deepen my knowledge and my confidence with nutrition and how to coach that particular piece without being prescriptive or crossing the line of scope of practice. So I would say those would be my top two favorites that I've pursued over time. What about you?
Gosh, I have a bunch, and I kind of mirror you in terms of some of the things that kind of opened my eyes to how I can help people better, like some health coaching, life coaching type stuff, behavior change, and nutrition. Some advice for all of you listening about certifications. There's maybe a kind of a couple of different ways that you can choose what you want to take. I mentioned this kettlebell one that I took earlier, and I think about it because it was like 2 to 3 days in Oceanside, California, hanging out with friends, doing something I already liked to do. So I got better doing something that I was already pretty good at. And it was fun and I got to connect and network with people. That was great. But then there's, if I'm being honest with myself, what do I need to fill some gaps in terms of my weakness? And as personal trainers go, I wouldn't say I'm the most flexible person. So taking some things that kind of drew me toward more flexibility, mobility type training and those sorts of certifications not only helped me personally, because again, I'm not the most flexible trainer out there, but it also kind of helped me to fill a gap because if you think about this like a business person, are there clients out there that maybe are not so flexible? Chances are that's
Definitely.
probably the case. So that's also why you might choose a certification is because not just the fun in the sun in San Diego throwing around kettlebells, but also what's going to help me in my career. Neither one of those is wrong, but I think those are two ways to think about the education and the certifications that you're going to attend. So again, certifications are where most people start. They give you tools to get out there, get on the floor, start working with clients. But then sometimes there's questions about, okay, how do I go further into this? How do I go deeper? How do I grow beyond just getting these certifications, but really understanding it? And maybe this is where higher education comes into play. And I think I don't know about you, Erin, but I think there's some debate in the world. I hear it from personal trainers as to what's necessary and do I need this? Do I need this certification? Do I need higher education? And I'll just give a quick answer. I don't know if need is the right word
Exactly.
because you can come up with we can come up with famous people that are billionaires that didn't finish high school. That is a thing that happens.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's how you should plan your life, right? And again, I don't want to say that's not going to happen to you. It might. And That's awesome. But again, that's not typical. And it's maybe not the first game plan that I would set if you were my friend and we were trying to make a plan for your career. So
Right.
higher education, Erin, let's talk about that a little bit. When I say higher education, what am I talking about? And then we'll get into what that can mean for people in the industry.
So higher education is just typically referring to post-secondary educational opportunities that lead to a terminal degree. So an associate's, a bachelor's, and then you've got graduate school with the master's and the doctoral levels, or even JD, and then professional schools. So it's really that pursuit of education and a degree beyond the high school level. And I think, like you said, need might not be the word for it, because I think when we say need, it puts this context out there that everybody has to do it or you won't be successful. And that's just too much of a sweeping generalization. And it's also just not true.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just not true.
And let's do this. Let's kind of shift towards some of the opportunities that higher education can open, because that's the point, right? If you're going to pay all this money, attend college, get a degree, the hope is that there's something on the other end waiting for you. So I'll just talk about a couple that I know of. There are, in fact, even personal training jobs that are only available to people with degrees in the field. If you're going to work for a corporate fitness or corporate wellness company, you probably need a degree in the field. Just to describe that real quickly, there are companies. Let's imagine a big company. I used to live in the same town as Google, for instance, and they had gyms on the property that they did not manage. They were managed by outside corporate fitness companies, which are staffed with personal trainers and managers. And there's a structure where you can move up and become leadership in the company. To work in those opportunities, typically they're going to be looking for a degree in the field. And then why would you want a job like that? It gets you a lot of the things that kind of accompany jobs that might require degrees like that, like benefits, paid time off, those sorts of things. Those are available in the personal training world as well. It's just not always guaranteed.
Sure.
Other things that are available is there are some high-end facilities. There are opportunities in some cases to work with medical professionals in maybe post-rehab situations, for instance. And oftentimes they're going to want personal trainers that have a degree in the field as well. So those are just a couple of examples. Erin, do you have any other examples?
Yeah, I would say one that comes to mind is teaching. If
Mm.
if you have an end goal of you've got this real passion for education and teaching and learning, and you want to be a master of that process and to inspire others to go into that field in an education setting, you will at minimum need a master's degree in the field in order to teach in that subject. That's the world of higher education. Part of that has to do with the accreditation requirements that institutions have to answer to and report to. But that is definitely one example where that degree path gets you a different opportunity. And I always like to frame it as, because I hear this conversation about if you go the higher ed route, then it's better. And it's different. It's different. It offers different opportunities. And it's not necessarily the end game or path for every single person. Does it open other doors? Yeah, but other doors. That doesn't necessarily mean it's better doors. I think we
Mhm.
have to remove that context from it, that it has to be part of your roadmap and it has to lead you to a point that you want to go, and not for the sake of just doing it. Because as you said, it's time, energy, and money that you invest in.
Mhm. That's right. That's right. In our positions, we often get our hands on industry reports, like what's going on in the industry, and then job reports and that sort of thing. And one of the most recent ones that I looked at, and I actually forget where it came from, but it was a legitimate source on employment in the fitness industry. And one of the things that really stuck out to me was it showed as people climbed and had longevity in the career, moved into management, moved into upper management or leadership, or they became owner operators, the percentage of them that did have degrees was significant. It was a significant number. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the number, but it was significant enough that it stuck out to me when I looked at it. Because again, I hear it too. I hear all these stories of you don't need this, you don't need that. And it's true, don't need, but is it helpful? And that report to me showed me that if you're trying to have long term success, you're trying to become a leader, move into leadership, move into management, upper
Yeah.
management, or owner operator, then higher education is going to be a huge help in being able to get that done and achieve that if that is indeed one of your goals. So I think the proof is there in terms of education still matters. But what education? I think that's the next question. So let's move to that now. So let's talk about paths, because there's a lot of paths in this career, and that can start from the certification part of your beginnings with certification and then including moving into higher education. So oftentimes we get into personal training. And if you're like me, I was just like, I'm interested in this. I want to help people. And I had background as a college athlete. So to me, it just made sense. I'll train people like athletes. And that's not the path for everyone, right? So in our industry, Erin, what are a couple of the paths that one might take when you become a personal trainer?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because as a personal trainer, you don't just work with one single population. Yes, the scope allows you to work with apparently healthy populations, but like you said, there is a path in strength and conditioning where you could very much focus on athletes, and that could range anywhere from high school athletes or collegiate athletes at really any level, a junior college level, maybe a division 1, a D2. So there's a strength and conditioning path. There's also a corrective exercise specialty path. So you could end up working more in a rehabilitative arm of the industry. I always think about exercise science as being this umbrella term. And then underneath it are all of these different spokes that you can pursue. And it's not like you have to pick one and just go that route. If you have multiple interest areas, then you can pursue it. So there is the strength and conditioning route, there's corrective exercise, youth fitness is huge. There's also active older adults, which is a hugely growing population. And that is also a very niche market. So that's certainly a path that you can go. And each path you take opens up different employment opportunities because you won't see a strength and conditioning coach employed at the same place somebody is doing active older adult or senior fitness. Those are two very different populations and they train differently, absolutely for obvious reasons. So there's all these different pathways that you can take. So essentially, you're not really limited in any way if there is a certain population. Like women's health is also a pathway. Health coaching is also a pathway. There's all sorts of different ways that you can move through exercise science and gain your level of expertise. And it doesn't just have to be with in a gym setting and working with just maybe that apparently healthy population that's maybe aged 30 to 55 or whatever it happens to be. You can niche down as much as you want. I do think that starting out working with a generally healthy population is a really great way to get experience and exposure to all different types of people and all different skill levels and abilities. Gives you a taste of kind of what the job is and what it looks and feels like on a daily basis. And from there, you can kind of decide this is where I really feel like I thrive, or I want to know more about this. So I'm going to pursue this pathway. So you're really not limited. There's all kinds of pathways you can take.
Yeah, definitely a lot. And over the years, I've gotten a lot of people that worked for companies where they sold gym equipment or there's a lot more people who are selling technology, different softwares for health clubs and for personal trainers. There's a lot of folks out there who are in the health club and fitness operations side of things. And a lot of them, almost all of them, started as a personal trainer at some point. So there's a lot of value in starting as a trainer, gaining more education as a trainer, and then diversifying your skill sets in ways so that maybe you'll find a path where you're the one selling all the treadmills to the gyms, which is a pretty lucrative job, by the way. I've had to be on the side where I was buying all those treadmills, and it's shocking how much they cost. Yeah, or you can be the one helping health clubs and personal trainers connect and learn how to better use a lot of the technology that's out there because there's a lot of this technology that's available, but there's a knowledge gap for a lot of trainers on how to use it and how to interpret all the data. So what if you're that person? Well, I'm pointing this out because there are opportunities out there that maybe people aren't thinking about. I think when they think of getting certified as a trainer, they think I'm going to go in the gym and I'm going to train people. And you're right for thinking that.
Totally. That is a
Right.
legitimate area, but it's not the only one. It is unfortunately the one that is talked about the most, I think, or at least is the perceived primary route.
Yeah, and I did 15 to 20,000 sessions in health clubs. I did it and I did it for a long time. And a lot of that is what kind of set the stage for me to go on and get into education like we're trying to do here now. So let's talk about next steps. Just to bring it back to the question I posed in the beginning. I said, take a look at where you're at right now, and then be honest with yourself about where you want to go and ask yourself what kind of education actually supports that path. Because the right next step for you is not the same as the next step for someone else. So I think before choosing education, ask yourself that question. Ask yourself where your gaps are. Ask yourself where your interests are. And then that'll kind of lead you down the road of where to look. So In terms of where to look, I can't help but mention it. But like we said, we work at Lionel University, right? We're all about education. We only do education under the exercise science umbrella, which covers a lot. We're talking about leadership. We're talking about nutrition. We're talking about coaching. We're talking about a course that's Chat GPT for fitness professionals. I think one of the things that you can do for yourselves is connect with people and places that can point you in the right direction. I think it's challenging now that there are a million different choices
Yeah.
out there. Which one do you choose, and which one is going to serve you best? So maybe we'll end there, Erin, because I'd love to hear your take on this. In choosing education and in choosing a path, what are some of the things that you were looking for when making decisions like that?
When I was looking at it,
Yeah, or really anytime.
anytime. I think one of the biggest things is knowing what interests you. What sets your soul on fire? What are topics or subjects that you feel drawn to for maybe an inexplicable reason? Start there because when you are pursuing, be it a certification or it is a degree path or something like that, it is time and energy that you're investing, and you're going to study a lot of those things. And you have to have a genuine interest in it. But I think also having an idea of your why. Why do you want to end up? What is driving you forward? What is the value system that you're operating on? Do you see yourself being someone who, for me, for example, it was like, I really just want to help people achieve the best versions of themselves. And how do I do that? What are the careers that allow me to do that? And I found exercise science and I went that path for that reason. But starting out with what interests you. And I think also being a smart consumer in terms of what is available out there to you. Don't just go one route. Look at what is available to you and find out like where does this lead me? What are the success rates of going this particular route? How many job openings are there? What is the predicted growth in that particular area? That's all stuff you can find just by researching and understanding what are the opportunities that are going there and that are available to me that I could, if I went this route, I could eventually end up there. Having an understanding of, say, if you have a vision of, like you said, if you want to end up in leadership, having an idea of what those jobs require in terms of knowledge, skills, and abilities, not just the degree, but other things that you need to nurture and curate over time as you pursue whatever path you choose, certification, degree wise, whatever that looks like. Being able to nurture those skills so that you don't just have a resume at the end, you have the portfolio, proven evidence that I can function in this role because these are the things that I've done. So I think just really understanding what are you interested in? I think you have to start by answering that question.
Yeah, that's the perfect question, right? It's not just about accumulating
Mhm.
education, although I think there's room for that too. I've certainly
Sure.
accumulated a lot, but it's not just about accumulating, it's about alignment, right? Is it aligned with what you're trying to accomplish and what you want to do? Because if it is, then you're more likely to be bought in. You're more likely, we've all taken courses we didn't want to take, right?
Absolutely.
And that doesn't feel great, and I don't know how the retention is, but when you're taking a course and you're really invested in it, both mentally, physically, all the way around, now you're a little bit more motivated to not just get the certificate. You're motivated to really learn how to apply the information so that you can do what you set out to do in the first place, which is get out there, work with people, help people, and like you said, maybe in some cases help them achieve the greatest version of themselves. Ultimately, that's what our industry can help us professionals do, but it puts us in a position where we get to have a lot of influence over our clients, or the clients of the people that we lead, or the clients of the people that we educate, like myself and Erin get to do. So there's a lot of possibilities so long as you do find that alignment. So again, I'll just say the question again so that it can be top of mind for any of you listening. Just ask yourself what kind of education is actually going to support your path. So take a look at where you're at right now, be honest with yourself about where you want to go, and then ask yourself what education is actually going to support that path. I don't know if we happen to have any questions that are about to come through, so we'll hang on for a couple of minutes. But if there were any questions from anyone, we'll hang on. If not, hopefully this kind of sparked a few light bulbs for you. Maybe it's going to cause you to maybe want to call us. And when I say us, Lionel University, I don't mean me or Aaron necessarily. But yeah, if there's any questions, we'll hang on for a little bit. If not, then thank you for listening. And again, hopefully this kind of gave you something to think about in terms of your education.
Yeah, absolutely. And that there's more than one way to get there. And starting with what interests you and what you're attracted to, and what's going to support your growth the best and the most meaningful way that aligns with your values is really where it's at. That's where you need to start.